Hi, everyone. This is Dee. Welcome to another episode of Evolution, Eternal Evolution of Self. I'll get it together in a minute. I have another beautiful guest with me today. This is Rhonda. Rhonda, thank you for being a guest on the show today and tell us what you do.
Hey, well, thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. I am a life and health coach, and goodness, I help women to rediscover the life that they always wanted. I also included with that, have my functional nutritional health certification because a lot of times what we consider is just like an emotional issue or on a goal that we have, there really is a nutritional portion of it as well that can help to enhance the goals that we have.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like nutrition for our soul and nutrition for our bodies too. So that's all kind of all encompassing. So that's beautiful. So how do you
Yep.
discover women to start embracing their lives again?
Um, hmm. How do I identify the women, or how do I help women to embrace that new life?
Yes, both, either or. I might not have worded that question. I seem to be having trouble with my words today, so I might not have worded that efficiently. So,
Okay. Well, a lot of times there are women that I've met various places, from church, from work, referred, because a lot of times women know my background. And, my background, I lived a pretty uneventful life. I was into my academics and achieving and goal oriented. And finally, in my 30s, I got married well after everybody else and after everybody had their children and
yeah.
everything else. I was excited about that, but on the honeymoon, that's when the domestic violence started
Oh my.
and it continued. And the woman who was goal oriented and helping other people and the self confidence wasn't.
Right.
Um, Pretty much all of that, it took pretty much my very soul out of me. And I suffered with depression for years. And I would have to make myself get out of the house because I knew that's what I needed to do. So that I didn't just suffocate, with the grief and the disappointment and a lot of we can say some mean things to ourselves
Oh, yes, we
when we're
can.
hurting.
Hmm.
And so you know, by the grace of God and some other women and some groups, that I was able to become involved with. I can put in a plug for Celebrate Recovery. It's 12-step program where you can deal, they say, with your hurts and your hangups.
Oh, wow.
And I was able to deal with some issues there. And I had, they call it a sponsor, but essentially it's a coach who walked with me through the 12 steps. And shout out to Sharon. He was amazing and compassionate. And I knew that that's what I wanted to be able to do to help other women who've had similar backgrounds and who thought their life was just like over,
Hmm.
um, to be able to rediscover life. Because the things that we go through in life, they're not our life sentence, but they can become the springboard for the life that we didn't even know was possible. And that's what I try to help women to discover or even rediscover.
Yeah. That I've not heard of that program before, but it sounds absolutely incredible. I'm just kind of mind boggled by the fact that the abuse started on your honeymoon. That's supposed to be the time when you're connecting in a very positive, meaningful, romantic, loving way, not in a toxic, abusive sort of way. So that's just mind-boggling to me that that's when it started. How long were you married to this man?
We were married for 7 years,
Wow.
and separated after 5. However, there was an incident about 2, 3 months after we got married, of physical abuse. Now, the emotional abuse was going on, all of that kind of the gaslighting, all of that was going on. But it's when the dining room table flew across the dining room
Wow.
that I left the home and I went and I got a protective order and he had to go. But during that time, and see, I'm one of those people. If I give my word for something, I keep my word no matter what. And yeah, I do have the example in my family. I mean, my grandparents were married, gosh, almost 60 years, separated only by
Mm.
death. And that's just kind of like, with my family. We make our vow before God and the others, and we keep it.
Right.
And we did the counseling, and I did, the Celebrate Recovery for me, and I had my own counselor, and then we did the couples counseling, which, in all honesty, if domestic violence is the issue, couples counseling is not the answer. I'm also a certified LCPC, so licensed clinical professional counselor. And all this stuff has really helped enrich my practice.
Yeah, I'm sure it has.
But so I also, I did try that. I did everything I could possibly do to make this work, because I didn't realize this beforehand. But as a woman, if there's domestic violence or if there's a marital issue, you're the one who gets blamed.
Yeah.
Um, if you are only more submissive, right? If only you were
Yeah.
kinder, if only you weren't so strong-willed, if only you weren't intelligent, if only you weren't still in the blank with
Right.
whatever it is that people want to heap on you. Um, but I didn't realize that all of that would happen until again it did.
Right.
And that just really it just really shaped me as a person. It's definitely helped me in my practice. The women that I'm working with now, um, almost all of them are domestic violence survivors. And one who's not a domestic violence survivor is actually a survivor of another sort.
Right.
But we all have a lot of that trauma in the background in different ways that affects the way that we see ourselves and the way that we present to the world. And those are the women that I really love working with, and I can really understand and empathize with because I've been there, I've experienced it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing that teaches you more than going through the experience yourself. And then you want to help other people not have to go through that, or if they have gone through it, how to realize that they don't have to blame themselves for it, and that they can still embrace being a strong, empowered woman, and that's not to say I'm a domestic violence survivor myself, um, 3 times over. So I get it. And it's, it is a hard thing, and it takes a lot. And I always say to people also that when you get into your first healthy relationship, which I'm in now, and you are too, and I'm so blessed, and I know you are, and so grateful for the peace in my life, but you're still learning inside of that new relationship, that healthy one, things about yourself, and you have to be willing to embrace the learning process. So how do you encourage and help women navigate the learning process inside of the new relationship?
Well, one of the most important things is to understand that you're not defective.
Right.
So you're not bringing a broken person into the relationship. You were created with skills and talents and abilities and characteristics that are uniquely you and are perfect.
Yeah.
And the other person does not make you perfect. The
Right. That's
other
right.
person does not complete you. It's a matter of understanding who you really are. What do you value? What are your strengths? What do you want out of life? And bringing that, when you know what that is, you can bring your best self to that relationship.
Mhm.
And, when you bring that best self, um, you learn. I mean, there's certain things you're not going to tolerate.
Right.
Um, but you also don't have to walk into it in a place of fear and trembling
Mhm.
because you are whole.
Right. Yeah.
And when you can be open, in that relationship and able to receive as well as give, then you most definitely have a more positive, healthy relationship, a more satisfying relationship. And ultimately, that is what we all want, a satisfying, healthy relationship.
Yeah. It's very true. We do want that. It just feels, I know with me, I felt really, it felt strange and it still does sometimes. And Steve and I've lived together for almost 3 years now, and it still felt strange sometimes to realize that I'm not being judged and that I'm being treated well and that he's there when I need him to help. Even like he'll just show up. Like I won't even have to ask him. He'll just all of a sudden he'll be next to me, helping me, and it's very strange still sometimes. So one of the things that you said was you have to be open, and maybe you didn't mean it in this way, but finding your voice in the new relationship, because I know for myself, and maybe it was the same for you, you'll have to let me know if that I lost my voice because I would say, whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter to me, it's however you want to do it, because I felt like no matter what I wanted, no matter what I said, it was never the right thing and it was always going to be overruled anyway. So why even voice my opinion? You know? So it is that part of what you mean by being open, and how do you teach women to find their voice inside of a new relationship?
Oh, I love that you brought that up because one of the biggest things I do is help women to find their voice. And we lose it for so many reasons. I mean, like you said, if you're in a relationship and no matter what you say, it's going to get overruled, then you check out.
Yes.
There's no reason to bring yourself. And sometimes too, you get to the point where you're like, I don't even know what I want anymore. I don't even know what my voice is.
Right.
And sometimes, we've been taught as women, we're not even allowed to have voice.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, a lot of women have been done that disservice.
Yes.
And in fact, one of the clients, well, some clients I've worked with that are older, that's kind of what society was then.
Hmm.
But helping women to learn that what you have to say, it is valuable.
Hmm.
Um, and you're actually doing the other party a disservice by not introducing your ideas, your thoughts into the relationship. Because you can't have an authentic relationship if you can't bring your authentic self.
Oh, yes, that's very true. That's very true. And if it's the right person, don't you feel like they're going to embrace that anyway? Because like I'm a very quirky, goofy person and my interests and beliefs are so diverse. And Steve and I were joking yesterday about like being crazy, just playing around, not in any kind of derogatory way at all, because and I've been called weird a lot in my life. So I embrace that part of myself now because I am weird and I am a little bit crazy, and in some ways, not in the, like we always say it's the good crazy or whatever. But I even made myself a weird crown because I do twisted wire art, and I even made myself a weird crown because so I embrace that part of myself. But it's so comfortable because I know that no matter how goofy I am, and no matter how silly, and no matter what kind of off the wall goofball thing I'm doing, Steve is going to just embrace that, and he allows me to be myself. And it's absolutely amazing. It really is.
It really is. I mean, it's just when you've found it, you found it.
Yeah.
Um, and it is just the most relaxing, amazing thing to find somebody who knows you and still embraces, all of you, even
Yeah.
the quirky parts, even the parts that you've been trying to hide from other people. And it's really what I find with a lot of women is that I've heard it said your people picker is broken.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, because they a lot of times are looking for someone, like I said, to fulfill them. I
Hmm.
mean, we all know the line from Jerry Maguire, you complete me.
Yes. Right.
While it's romantic in the movie,
Right.
in life, you're complete in and of yourself.
Yes.
um just helping women to understand who you are. It's enough.
Hmm.
um Even with all those other things. And I really was going somewhere else with it. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. So even starting out in relationships, a lot of times we are looking for that person to complete us.
Hmm.
But what we're not looking at is how are they treating us?
Yes.
Um, because if they are nasty beforehand, um, you're not going to change people. And this is one of the things. I mean, I was doing a talk on domestic violence this past weekend, and I talked about some of those things that I learned. Um, number one, you can't change anybody.
That's right.
Um, can't love anybody into change. So if you're in a relationship and you're looking at um, he's disrespecting you, he's going to disrespect you later.
Yeah.
Um, if he is, goodness, if he's mean to his mother, and is mean towards women in general, don't think you're going to be the special one that doesn't happen to. You're
Right.
not. If he has an addiction, and I mean, my husband, he is a coach too, and he coaches men with basically, well, he can do it either sexual addictions, and he's got 20 years clean from narcotics. Yeah, he's a was it Narcotics Anonymous man. And so, he's got 20 years clean with that.
That's amazing.
And
Congratulations to him on that.
thank you, thank you. And let me tell you, that changes everything.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely it does. It absolutely does. I mean, because people aren't themselves when they have any sort of addiction. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many things that are, part and parcel of that whole scenario, no matter what type of addiction it is, for sure.
Exactly. And I think a lot of times we're like, well, if I'm there, then I'm going to help them. But basically, what that just ends up being is a codependent relationship.
Hmm.
Um, because unless somebody wants to change and is willing to take steps to change, then it's not going to happen. And just, spoiler alert here, the person who, my first husband, who was an addict, who was abusive, um, is 11 years later, we got remarried.
Wow.
And the addiction, we don't have that. And we were able to set parameters and boundaries. And I think a lot of times women are afraid to set up boundaries in
Yes.
relationship.
Hmm.
Um, you can't be calling me all hours of the night
Right.
um, for for a booty call or even just to talk.
Right.
It's just that I'm not that woman.
Right.
And so after I got divorced, I got back in the dating world. People would just come up with all kinds of crazy things. And I'm
Cool.
like,
It's pretty incredible.
kind of like, yeah, obviously you haven't been paying any attention because that's not me.
Right,
But having those boundaries and doing it, early on, it saves you a lot of time. It saves you a lot of heartache. And, knowing that you're worth setting the boundaries for because you have those values that are important to you. And knowing what you bring to the relationship. Once you know some of those things, you're not going to accept this any old thing. You're not
right,
going to be thinking you can push somebody into change, you can love somebody into change, or that it's your fault that
right.
they don't change.
Yeah.
Or if I get into this relationship, I will never have another relationship again as long as I live. And
I
quite
think I've said that a few times. My grandma even called me out on it once. Now, D, you shouldn't say never.
And, it's a pretty common thing. But
Yeah,
the one thing I discovered, for myself is I would rather be alone than be with the wrong person.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's where we get tripped up, isn't it? Where we seek that external validation, that we aren't okay unless we're in a relationship, and we're not okay if we're not, getting the compliments from other people and things don't look in this preconceived notion of a way. And so, how do you help people, women especially, find their inner voice, the strength of their inner voice where they're talking to themselves in a more positive way? Because I know that was huge for me.
Hmm. I mean, one of the biggest things, starting off with, well, gosh, I do a couple. Um, One of the things that I do is I start off with what do you value? What is important to you? And we just write it out. And we take a look at, okay, how are you demonstrating this in your life? What does it look like? How would you know if you saw it?
Mm,
And, a lot of times, it gets really uncomfortable
yeah,
a lot of times. Because one, they've never been asked before, what do you value? What's important to you?
right.
And so you have to really think about that. And then you also have to say no judgment because what's important to you, what you value, okay. It's okay. Even if nobody else thinks it's okay.
Right.
Because that's the framework that you're bringing.
Hmm.
And so, starting off with what do you value? Okay, what does it look like? Okay, if you were in a relationship, what does it look like in a relationship? Okay, that being the case, and I will throw out all kinds of scenarios. Okay, so you say this is what I want, and somebody says, yeah, well, actually, what you really want is this, and try to overtalk you or try to change your thoughts. Okay, what do you do in a scenario like and sometimes you get, well, I try to compromise. I try to see the other side, the other person's side. And all those things are very important. But you do have those things, those core beliefs that, you're willing to be, as it was said, be shot at sunrise for.
Right.
And those are those core beliefs you don't change.
Right.
And if other people aren't able to deal with that, and not just romantically,
Right.
just even with friendships. I mean, I've gone through several people who were close to me at one time, but
Hmm.
those values just don't align.
Right.
And when you try to maintain any kind of a relationship where the values don't align, it's just draining and
Hmm.
it's unsatisfying.
Yes.
And now, a relationship, they should speak into you. They should build into you. I mean,
Yes.
they should make your life, um, better.
Yes.
But all that kind of effort and mental drain and physical drain, and you're like, You see the phone ring, you're like, oh my gosh. Then perhaps you need to take a look at that relationship and whether it
Yes.
still needs to be a part of.
Right. Absolutely. And it's so interesting you brought that up because I was going to ask you if you felt like there was a correlation between those types of friendships and those types of romantic relationships kind of happening at the same time. And I know that's been the case for me. And it's really interesting. You said, you when the phone rings, because I remember very distinctly this one person I would want this one lady that I was friends with. And I got off the phone with her one day, and Steve looked at, because this was after Steve and I got together, and he said, you know, Dee, you're supposed to feel better after you get off the phone with your friend. You're supposed to be happy and feel better. And he's like, if you are getting off the phone with her and you feel worse at the end of the conversation, then that's not a friend. And then it was like a few days later, I really let that sink into my soul. And a few days later, I got a text from her and I was kind of excited about it. I thought, I was sitting there in the morning having my coffee and I noticed she had texted me and I was kind of excited about reading it. And I read it and like I was like, what the like I was excited about reading this text because I saw it was from her. Here I am, first thing in the morning, having my coffee, just relaxing in my peaceful morning. And it pissed me off so bad that I was like, I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm done. Like, I can't keep doing this anymore. And I found it, and it hurt. It did hurt because I loved her and I cared about her as a person, and I wanted the best things in life for her. But at the end of the day, I was like, I can't do this in my life anymore. I'm not going to do this in my life anymore, whether it's a romantic relationship or friendship. I'm like, done, you know?
Yeah. I mean, energy drains are things that we try to get rid of in our lives. If we're healthy, we don't try to embrace them.
Right.
And, a lot of times when we're codependent, then we accept things like that because, I mean, we tell ourselves a number of things. Well, they don't have any other friends. Well, I understand them like,
Right.
nobody else does. Or 20 years ago, they really helped that situation and we were just so close.
Yes.
I mean, but people change. We change throughout our lives. You've got the eternal evolution of self. We
Right.
continue to evolve throughout our lives. And, if we think about our clothing, what we wore when we were 10, we can't get into it anymore
Right.
because we've changed. And
Yes.
so our needs for relationship change, the things that we believe are change, and even the way that we express ourselves. I
Yes.
mean, talking about clothes, think back to the 80s. Remember all the fluorescent stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I look back
Yes.
at some of my
Leg
old
warmers.
pictures from high school, and I had those too. And I look at some of the pictures from high school, and I'm like, you walked out of the house? And I wouldn't do that now
Right.
because number one, the times have changed, but number two, I've changed.
Yes.
And a lot of times now as women, as we grow older, I don't think we really understand that as we have life experiences, we mature, we change. The things that we want out of life change. And
Yes.
that's okay. And a lot of those things change. I mean, thank God because of those past experiences.
Right.
And it's you need to embrace the now.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff talk about being mindful, being in the moment, being where you are. And we do need to be where we are, be where your feet are, right
Yes.
here. And just embrace that.
Yeah. And we forget to do that a lot. We do. And understanding that change is good. It not only can be good, as we like to say, change could be a good thing, but it is a good thing. It is. And when you were talking about that, I distinctly remember a conversation that I had with my ex-husband towards the end. And he said,
Mm-hmm.
well, you've changed. And I said, well, yeah, I have changed because now I'm not going to put up with your crap anymore. You know, I remember saying that. I'm like, gosh, like, how is it bad if I'm just like done? You know, of course, then I got into really toxic relationships after that. But, you know, I finally, at the age of 50, learned that I don't need to be in a toxic relationship anymore. And I can embrace the wholeness of myself as a human. So, you know, and it's better late than never. So, how do you like maybe encourage women to, I don't want to go on about my own personal experience, but how do you encourage women that you coach to embrace just who they are now? And then it doesn't have to, like, it doesn't matter that you're not 20 anymore. You can be 40, 50, 60, whatever it looks like for you, and still embrace the new life that you can create for yourself.
Well, and the big thing is it is never too late. I mean, like I said, some of the clients that I work with, they're pushing 70.
Hmm.
And they can look back at their lives and, there's the I wish Idas.
Yes.
Um, but we can't concentrate on the I wish Idas. You are here today, right now. What do you want, the next 10 years of your life to look like, the 20 years to look like? And, I heard it said the only thing worse than being in a toxic relationship for a year is being in a toxic relationship for 1 year and 1 day.
Yes.
At some point, you need to be able, I mean, you come to yourself. I mean, for me, it was that time when I was looking in the mirror and I said, who is this person? I don't even know who she is, but I don't like her. And it just can't stay that way.
Right.
So if you do it at 20, at 50, at 65, at 95, it
Right.
doesn't make any difference. Still have life ahead of you. And, I do on, my different social media platforms, um, I put out tips to help, women start living again, because it's hard.
Yeah.
If you've been doing the same thing the same way for 50 years, it's hard and it's a little scary
Oh,
to
yes.
think
Very
if I
scary.
do something different. And I mean, if I do this, what's going to happen to me? What if I can't do it? What if I
Right.
can't change? What if, my lot is cast and this is the life that I'm stuck? And that's why I've adopted, the phrase life in the hard places coaching. Stop coping, start living.
Yes.
Most of us know what it's like to cope with life. We can show up, we can put a smile on our face.
Mm.
We do it at work sometimes. We do
Yeah.
it at family reunions sometimes. We do it in relationships of all sorts. We can put a smile on our face. We can do what we need to do, but that's just coping.
Right.
And we weren't called to just cope with life. A lot of times, I say I'm a domestic violence survivor. I'm not just a survivor. I'm a thriver. I'm not
Right.
just, barely in it, trying to make it through life. I'm living life to the fullest. This summer, we took 3 trips and I was in Ecuador for 2 weeks. It was
Amazing.
a bucket list. It was a thing that I've had for years and I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Having a coach practice and helping women that come out of the shadows to find their voice, to embrace the life that they really want to live, a life that they thought, oh, it's no longer possible, it's too late, I've messed up too much.
Yeah.
I've had addictions, I've had bad relationships, I've got children that scare me, I've got health issues,
Right.
I've got, health issues that keep me down. And I just want to say, to these women, no, what happened in your past does not condemn you to an unfulfilling future. That's just not true. We have the power to change in our hands. We
Yes.
have it. Only time that we lose it is when we give it up.
Yes.
And in my practice, help women to embrace that, embrace their total selves, embrace their hope for the future because it's there.
Right.
I'm a living testimony. It's there. It's
Yes.
not too late.
Right. Yes. And I'm a living testimony too. It is not too late. It was, 50 for me, my 50th year of my life. And so it's definitely, do it. You're good enough. You're worthy, like you get to have that peace. You get to have that happiness. It's something you can embrace at any time. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean you're not going to, have a few tears and, a few, like hard times, but you can do it. You can do it. And it's so worth it. It really is. And one of the things that I didn't know, like I left my last toxic relationship. I was with him for about 6 years, and I left him multiple
Mm,
times before I left and stayed gone before I let it stick,
yes,
and
yes,
then I, just this year did research on some of these behaviors of women, and not just women, because men are abused too. There are abused men. It's just more prevalent in the female community. But women will, or abused people will leave their abuser an average of 7 times and go back to
that's
them.
right. That's right.
And
That's
that's
right.
just, and I
Yeah,
did
before.
that. It's crazy. Like, I mean, it seems crazy, but it's something that we do. And knowing that you can do that and go back and not judging yourself and allowing yourself to still realize that you can leave for good, you know?
Yes. And giving yourself some grace because
Yes.
it's true. I mean, I know my story is an anomaly. It happened one major event, that was it. But I'm an anomaly. The average woman, it is 7 times. And, I like, a couple of things that you were saying there, just, for statistics, it's 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men during the course of their lives will be in an abusive relationship. And, think about, those people, if it's not you, somebody, even
Right.
if they're not sharing it.
Yes.
So, being there to help them to extend grace to themselves.
Hmm.
Um, and knowing that women stay, people stay for a number of reasons. Um, and, sometimes it's, you don't have the finances on your own to be able to do it.
Yes.
Um, I've worked with a woman who she was concerned about her children. If I leave, I'll be in a shelter, and what about my children?
Yes.
And so she continued, we talked a little bit about, okay, but what are you teaching your children about
Right.
relationships and how women should be treated? But that's the real reason for staying, that those whole finances. Sometimes, women, a lot of times you've been beaten down so poorly
Hmm.
that you don't believe in yourself anymore,
Yeah.
that you can actually do this. And so a lot of women stay for that reason. There's the whole for cultural reasons why women stay,
Yes.
religious reasons why
Yeah.
women stay. Now, granted, if you kind of actually like read the holy, well, I'm a Christian. If you read the scriptures, God never tells you you need to stay in an abusive relationship. It's just not
Right.
there. But number of reasons why women stay. So a lot of times on the outside judging, looking in,
Hmm.
you should, but you don't know unless you've been on the inside.
Right.
And a lot of times too, when women are trying to make that decision to leave, what they really need is that support from you, that non-judgmental support.
Right.
I'm here for you. I will, we need to come up with an escape plan because sometimes you really do need to have that plan. You need to have your own bank account. You need to have the clothes and stuff ready and at a friend's house so that if you need to make a break for it with you or you and your kids, you're out of there.
Right.
So, there are different agencies that can help with that as well. So there's a number of reasons why women stay. And judging them or judging yourself it's not helpful. It's just not helpful.
No.
It's, those are some of the things that keep women stuck.
Yes. And the safety is paramount. I mean, I know not all abusive relationships are physical because my marriage wasn't a physical abuse. It was all verbal and emotional. But when that physical component is there, and there's a safety issue, and maybe he's hitting you or hurting you and he's not hurting the kids, but the kids are still seeing that, that's still like, that is so powerful,
It's
of a
just
memory for
abuse.
your kids, and it's abuse to them too, even though he's not hitting them, so safety is paramount above all else, above belongings, clothes, everything. If it becomes a safety issue, then just, the
Hmm.
escape plan thing, like you said. And
Hmm.
I think we're becoming
Yeah.
more aware of this in the society. So, even if it's a scenario where you're out in public and you feel like that's the only safe place, you could be shopping at Walmart or, Target or wherever, going up to another woman and just saying, hey, I need help or whatever. Because I think in the society these days, we've become so much more aware that, and women are going to help women. I mean, that's just it. If I came up to you on the street and you didn't know me from Adam and I said, hey, I need your help, 99.9% sure you're not going to tell me you're not going to help me. So
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. And honestly, this month, on Life in Hard Places Instagram, and I do have a private Facebook group, and I have a LinkedIn, Rhonda Goodrich. I'm putting out there different quotes from women who've been in situations. And if you want to send me a quote, I would love to put it out there. But because as the sisterhood,
yeah,
we can help each other.
yes,
And, when we share our stories, we help other women. A lot of times we're ashamed to tell our story. And for years, I was ashamed to tell my story because I'm like, I should have known better. I
yeah.
mean, I'm
Oh,
a
I told myself
counselor.
that all
I
the
should have
time.
known better.
Yeah,
But I mean, if we're honest, if they were just nasty and cruel to begin with all the time, you wouldn't have gone into that relationship. You would have been like, ooh, no, nah, I'll pass on that one.
right.
But that's the whole cycle of, domestic violence. You do have that honeymoon period where they're kind and they're bringing you flowers and you are the most wonderful person in the world. And
Mm,
then you have that tension when, at the beginning you don't know what's going to happen, something's going to happen. Then after a while, you know full well what's going to happen.
yes.
And, a lot of times I've heard women say, I would rather be hit because you get compassion for a bruise. But all of those nasty statements that tear at your very soul,
Mm,
those take a long time to heal. You can't put a band-aid on those.
right.
And then, of course, you got the explosion. And then, you get the apologies. It'll never happen again. It's that whole deal that
Yes.
happens that keeps you off balance so that you're not really sure what to do.
Yeah.
And I know in my particular situation, that's I wasn't exposed to that growing up. So it took me a while. I mean, I can remember not wanting to be in the house and not knowing why. I
Mm,
went to Shenandoah because I'm on the East Coast, and I remember sitting on the stone fence and looking out into the mountain, and I'm like, God, what in the world is happening? And I heard the words, it's domestic violence, and I'm like,
mm,
whoa. And, one of the quotes I put out, on Instagram is, abusive relationship, that would never happen to me
yeah.
until it did,
Yeah.
because I didn't think that would ever happen to me. And, you know, I know I was in that group of people who judged other women. Um, and yeah, I'm ashamed to admit that. But I'm also acknowledge it's not the case anymore. And
Right.
if we can help others to understand you don't need to be ashamed, you are not alone, there is help, then I feel that that's really part of my mission to help women to know that they have a voice, to know that they are valuable. And I love the word you said before, worthy. They are worthy
Yes.
of being respected, of having self-respect, of requiring respect in the
Yes.
relationships that they're, no matter what kind of relationship that it is.
Right.
And sometimes it's going to mean that relationship is going to end. And it hurts because nobody likes to be rejected. Nobody
Right.
likes that. But we can't be codependent either and continue to hurt ourselves in an effort to hold on to something that's not really good for us. I mean, it's like trying to hold on to a rattlesnake.
Right.
It's not helpful. And in fact, it will kill you.
Yes.
We need to learn, we need to be able to let go of those things. And, if you're holding on to the old, you're never going to be able to embrace the new. I mean, there are possibilities out there that you've never even thought of, and you're
Yeah.
never going to be able to embrace them, for yourself if you're holding on to tattered, I mean, broken, tattered clothes. You'll never get new clothes if you
Right.
keep holding on to this. I mean, we want to be dressed in new clothes, in clothes that make us feel comfortable, in clothes that make us feel good. And in
Right.
order to do that, we have to be willing to let go of the rags that just don't serve us well anymore.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so true. And what I would say to women is, because I went through this myself, is don't be afraid to get to know yourself. Don't be afraid to get to know yourself because you're gonna like her.
Yes, you will. She's wonderful. She is.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to do is help women actually get to know who they really are, who they were created to be, so that they can live the life that they were meant to live, the life that they want to live, and to let them know it's still a possibility. And like I said, I have a private Facebook group, Life in the Hard Places.
Mm.
You can, ask to join. We don't let
It always
everybody
makes
in. We
me
do have,
emotional. Such
we
a
have,
potent topic.
in, yes, I mean, on Instagram, I'm there. Life in the Hard Places on Instagram. I am Coach Rhonda on YouTube. And I go by my name, just Rhonda Goodridge on LinkedIn. And yes, I married well this time because he helps me keep all that stuff fueled. Because yes, I am blessed with a wonderful man.
That's awesome.
Because I do still work full time in addition to coaching.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just finished my functional nutritional counseling certification, so I was also in school. So
That's so awesome. Congratulations again on that. That's amazing. And
yeah, no grass grows under our feet here.
and it's such amazing work you do. And I'm going to put all the links to your social media and everything down below in this description box of this video. And I appreciate you coming on here and talking with us all about this really emotional, powerful, impactful topic because it's something we don't always want to think about or talk about because it's not the most positive of topics to think about it, but it can be a very positive outcome and it can lead
Yeah,
to beautiful places in your life and that's what we want to keep our focus on. The past is the
yeah,
past, it's over, and now we get to step into this bright and wonderful future. So thank you for being a guest on my show today. I truly appreciate you. I truly appreciate what you do addressing this really you know, powerful area of a lot of women's lives because it getting out of that and stepping into the light one more time is or maybe for the first time for some of these women, stepping into the light is, that's not to be underrated. That's an amazing experience. So thank you for that and what you do and continue to do it. And I hope you get lots of people reaching out to you that need the help that you provide. So, and thank you to our listeners for showing up here today and giving yourself the gift of listening to this wonderful information that can help you into a bright and wonderful future. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video so that we can get this information out to everyone who needs to hear it today. And as always, thank you so much for being part of my community, this community of wonderful people, wonderful guests. And, as always, I love you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity.